Great. Brother.
Here we are once again. I don't know if you can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Because usually that music overshadows our audio. But again,
Okay.
Another Monday. This makes it happen for me. This starts me off. And I'm glad to be back here with you, brother. And we were speaking about the topic of this show. Just want to say welcome to Giant Gain and Renee Green. But I want to explain the banner so people could understand it, saying like, okay, why did he put it like that? And I'm going to basically explain that and put the banner back up.
Great banner.
When we said destiny swapping, invasion of the body snatchers, out there that makes sense. Here we have a black man begging with a tattered leather jacket and pretty much the rest that you can't see, with a cup in his hand, begging for coins. If you get paper money, fine, but you're begging for coins as a black man. But you have a crown on your head. And the reason why you have the crown on your head is because you're the original man of the planet Earth, and you gave everyone civilization. You taught everyone. You gave them philosophy. You gave them spirituality, a sense of spirituality. You taught them how to build massive structures that were physically sound. You taught them how to take care of themselves physically when they didn't even know how to. Had a power blinkage and it knocked out the main computer that I'm on. So I don't know if you can still hear me.
No, we didn't hear you.
Okay, yeah, it blocked me out, but I'm going to come back the same way I was on. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
But I'm going to continue explaining through the phone what I meant. So here we have the original man who gave the world everything, and everything came from us. Not everyone, but everything. And now, with everything stolen, we sit there on the curb or on the sidewalk of a busy street while everybody else takes credit for what they stole, even when they don't think they stole it, because generations have gone by and the history books have been twisted against us. And now we're looked at as subpar in the system, and we don't even realize who we are. And the mockery is that we still wear a crown that we're not aware that is rightfully ours. We honor everybody else as the creator of everything. We bow our head. We feel as though we're less than, and that's not the case. We are the original. We are the strongest, the best, and we have given the world everything. But now we're just a derelict on the street begging for money, and we're not that. But more of us need to know that we are bigger than that, and our whole history has been hijacked. And that's where I'm coming from. And the magic of the hocus pocus goes on. All of a sudden, everything cuts out. I'm on the phone right now. I'm coming back the other way, but I'm going to keep myself on the phone just in case, but I'll be able to operate it that way. Timing is everything. It's funny. This will not stop this message. Trust to believe. But talk to us, brother.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wanted you to explain that because once again, you know, you lay out the exact concept. Now, I'm all the way on the other side of the world. I haven't spoken to you about this show, but yeah, I told you I'm going to start charging you rent in my head because that is a perfect description of where we find ourselves today. And you know, when we were talking about this subject about a month ago, and you know, privately and saying we wanted to discuss it or whatever, I kind of let it slip by a little bit. But then, as always, an incident happens where it takes you back to where you're supposed to be, simply because. And now I know that it's not just that you forget things; it's that you have a active entity or entities working to block those downloads.
Yes.
Or they can even take the downloads from your mind. And today we're going to cover this aspect of what you just showed, and we're going to look at it from the perspective of not from an individual perspective, but as a collective group, a culture, Black people, right. As you said, the original sun people of the earth. And so the thing about this subject that really got to me, and why I added the part of the invasion of the body snatchers, I like to watch a movie once a week, just to kind of, because a lot of times things that are revealed to us now, or we saw, say, 30 years ago, we're just getting the inspiration of it, right? And so I watched this movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And something just clicked in my mind and said, this is what destiny swapping is about. And boy, I was fully engaged after that, because just a brief synopsis of the movie, and it'll set up our presentation today. And as always, brother, I want to greet you again, greet everybody in the chat room under the sound of my voice. It's always good to be with you guys again on Monday. Nothing like having a spiritual family.
That's right.
And so, so the movie was set up. One of my favorite actors, Mr. Spark, or Dr. Spark, Leonard Nimoy, was in it, and so was I think Donald Sutherland when he was a young guy. And it's interesting that he was Dr. Spark was telling Donald Sutherland that they can't, once they found out that these aliens were here, he said, we came from a dying planet. And if you think about the individuals that battle against us from the first time they encountered our great civilizations, this type of enviousness and this type of destiny swapping came into effect. Okay. And so he was telling Donald Sutherland, we came from a dying planet, and this was our last hope. But two things happened. First, they were born out of a big pod, a plant, not a woman, right? But in order for them to manifest, you have to go to sleep. So their bodies are created out of these pods, right? And they can even see the bodies, right? But they wait for you to go to sleep. Once you go to sleep, then they start stealing your energy. Your nose start bleeding or whatever. But luckily, his lady friend woke him out of the sleep because she saw the body eyes open. And so she ran and woke him up. As soon as he woke up, they went back to the body, and the body's nose was bleeding out, just laying there. So I thought about it. I was like, that's interesting. That you have to be asleep. Okay. And you know, Lance, we know we dealing with 3 different planes of existence. Not just physically asleep, but mentally and spiritually asleep as well. But once I started watching it, I got so deeply involved with it. I said, okay, I need to look at nature, something in nature as always, because nature is our greatest teacher, to see the real truth about this. And so I spent a couple of weeks researching. Some of this is very fascinating. And, you know, I know our people, we like to involve the spirituality of something as 100% of the manifestation, when that's just one aspect of it, right?
Right.
So today, as always, we're going to look at the scientific aspect of it, or the natural or nature, what they call science, but we know it's really nature. We're going to look at how this whole scenario with how our destiny was swapped while their brother's wearing a crown but living on the streets. And we're going to break it down and look at this battle that begins really at the quantum level. So, brother, if you put that picture up of the energy manipulation for me.
Yes.
I want to go into this a little bit.
Let me see which one it may be. Is it this one?
No, it's go ahead. Go ahead. Yep, that's it.
All right.
So as you can see right there, this is a form of transferring energy from one person to another. Okay. And as I said, a lot of people lean towards the spiritual aspect of this. You know, our people got the hoodoo power, you know, that they corrupted. But there are also 2 other aspects of this, as we'll explore today. But primarily, this is what takes place. The reason why we know that this information, because we all function on the same wavelength, hot and cold, good and bad. So, and we're going to explain today why that is, and how the people who have us in this condition and that have stolen our birthright, how they actually were able to be successful at accomplishing this. But the other thing too is I want to add the biblical aspect, because our people will dial in subconsciously more when we add this. But you remember the story with King Herod. He got whiff of it from the people who deal in you know, the different sorceries that they use and continue to use today, that there was going to be a king born that would challenge his throne. And this was also in the stars. The divinators that they dealt with, you know, they could see certain things on the wire, okay? So they knew that it was foretold that this king would be born. And like all people or men in power, they'll do whatever it is they have to do to hold on to their power. Yes, so indeed. He had all of the firstborn killed in that nation just to get to this king that was foretold about. Now imagine that. Okay, so the other thing too was the story when what's his name, the Pharaoh, when supposedly Yahweh put a curse on him, and all the firstborn in their land was dying, and his son died as well. But we know these are Hollywood made up movies. So, but they're good to use as some type of way to look at something. Yeah, but this movie The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, man, had several messages in it that I missed decades ago when I first saw it. But the one thing that stuck out in my mind is how there always has to be a transference from something organic to something inorganic. And even though they came out of those pods and those plants, we knew it was not a natural process, at least here on the planet, for a human being to be born out of a pod. So energetic manipulation, or you can look at it as melanin envy, because at the root, this is what the real issue is. Okay, and it involves psychic vampires. This phenomenon involves using quantum entanglement and energy manipulation to exchange life trajectories, talents, or opportunities between two individuals, and I added, or a nation of people, or a culture, or civilization, or race of people, like Black people. Okay, so again, we're looking at this from a perspective of we as a nation of Black people, that the people who had to, the energy vampires or the psychic vampires or whatever energy they use, had to, this is why they have studied melanin since 1945. Okay, because that energy is necessary for them to stay alive. Okay, so its core, Destiny Swap, at its core, is an intentional act of energy manipulation, such as what you see there in that visual. One person often described as an energetic or psychic vampire identifies someone with a desirable life trajectory, and usually characteristics or traits that they envy and want. And through various techniques, such as forming emotional bonds or exploiting quantum entanglement, they attempt to siphon this positive energy and replace it with their own less desirable energy. And this is actually melanin envy. So I mispronounced the word, it's entanglement. Okay, so let's go back and look at a couple of key things here. First of all, at the core of Destiny Swap, and again, we're talking about when Europeans first came to Black lands, wherever we resided, this was, they knew that this power they were looking at with all this gold and these big empires and these pyramids and all these hundreds of thousands of texts, they knew that this could only be produced from something greater than what they saw themselves as or wanted to be projected as. So this was the first act of melanin envy. So it's an intentional act of energy manipulation where one person, or in this case, as I said, a nation of people, who we are, the first nation of people, often describes as an energetic or psychic vampire, identifies someone, or if someone identifies your energy that they want, as they did us as a people, usually characteristics or traits that they envy and want. And they do this destiny swapping through various techniques, okay, such as forming emotional bonds. Okay, and we talked about how they replace your energy and they give you their energy. Now, I'll give you an example. It's like someone with a natural talent for art who feels a deep connection and serenity while creating a psychic vampire may disrupt this connection as they do. And I want to pause here to make a point. One of the reasons why I don't use Chat GPT personally, and I understand from a business standpoint, it's great. Everybody want to produce something quick and fast, and that's okay. But to me, that's the way that they actually use energy manipulation, because anytime there is something in between you and your actual manifestation of something, then the energy switches. Okay, sometimes you may not even be aware of this. This is one of the reasons why I put so much time into the children's book, talking to them about nature and natural things, because this power is generational, or this energetic manipulation is generational. So that's why it's so important what we pass down to our children. And we have to talk about this because everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart, even though we want to believe that because of what it is in our chakras. But at the end of the day, now you must deal with this force appropriately. So you have someone with these talents, okay, of creativity, and a psychic vampire can disrupt this. Okay, a lot of times by presenting you with other uploads or telling you that you can manifest this if you follow them, or if you subscribe to some of the ways that they see the world, which is basically based on greed and, manipulating people. So at the end of the day, they leave them with their own stagnation or lack of energy, and they transfer this energy from them to you, and then they take your energy. Now, some examples will be Black farmers, because we were the original, or are the original farmers. That energy was taken. Our people don't even want, when you're talking about going on a farm, I'm not talking about working for, the modern day slave owners. I'm talking about our own farm. And this is one of the reasons behind them taking all the land, because there is a connection to you and the land as well. But when you have something in between that, as I just showed, then you're going to have this energy transfer that's going to dilute. So like putting milk into coffee, it's going to dilute the strength of that coffee. But this too comes from this savior complex that we've been taught. So rather than you having a direct connection to nature, then you have to have something that has been replaced and given to you. Okay, brother.
All right.
If you put that other picture up there for me, I'll know when you put it up there.
Okay.
So, okay, we can deal with that one first. But I wanted
we can put this one up if you want.
Yeah, that's the perfect one, because we're getting ready to get into this.
This is it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
We're getting ready to get into this at the quantum level to show how deep this warfare against Sun people is. But some of the other examples I wanted to show before we switch is Black inventors. We know that they have taken all of our inventions, and that their descendants directly benefit from the trillions of dollars that we have created from all of the inventions, along with the quality of life that these inventions created. Could you imagine America without Black people and the inventors? Black music. I was looking at Michael Jackson the other night, and he was talking about how all of them, they couldn't own their masters, because when they got to that point, I went back and I looked at the documentary on Sam Cooke. I looked at the one on Prince. So mainly in the music industry is when you really see this destiny swap take place as well. This is one of the biggest examples. And then we know after they finish using our brothers and sisters and giving them this pseudo and false sense of success, they take them down and shame them before the world. But all of the ones that, and you know, Michael Jackson, I have to give him a lot of credit. Even though he produced Thriller, to this day is still the #1 selling video of all times. And even Prince, when he wrote Slave on his cheek, after he realized, there are a couple of people that they highlighted as well in this documentary, but none of our people were able to claim their masters and hold on to it. Okay, eventually these destiny swappers, they came in and they took that. But our Black music still leads the world in any genre of music. Also, I wanted to mention Little Richard. Thank you, Creatrix. Little Richard actually was the founder of rock and roll music, along with Chuck Berry. But what happened to Little Richard was that song Tutti Frutti that he wrote was a hit, but because the white masters weren't allowing their music and their videos to be played on TV, they got this guy, Pat Boone, and Tutti Frutti became a hit because white people went crazy over that song, not knowing that Little Richard was the one that originated the song. How many people remember Big Mama Thornton? Okay, she was the one that made the song Hound Dog, right? But who do we give credit? Who made millions of millions of dollars off of that song? Elvis Presley did. Whenever you hear Hound Dog, you think of Elvis Presley, whereas Big Mama Thornton, she was only allowed to perform on the Chitlin circuit. But that song put Elvis Presley on the map. But Big Mama Thornton, died, broke, like most of our, originators, right? Also, Black spirituality. They hijacked that from us. They sucked everything from the Medu Neter, from the Hopi knowledge here on Turtle Island. They're like siphoners. Okay. You know how you used to siphon gas out of cars when you run out of gas and then put it in your car?
Yep.
They're masters at that. The thing that's so amazing is, and then I thought about that experience I had with David Copperfield, where he actually blocked our minds when the people we were looking at, hundreds of people, never left that area. So somehow they have blocked our mind. Exactly. And they have taught us to worship them and the things that they worship, the material things rather than natural things. Black history.
Brother, I want to, before you go further, when you were speaking about how many of the musical artists never get credit. Oh, yeah. Here's one buried. I've spoken it before. When I was doing bodybuilding from the late 70s into the 80s, my friend Michael Scott, who was a guy from around the way, very quiet guy. We used to hang out all the time. He lives in Las Vegas now. I'm not sure if he's still with us. He had illness. We lost contact. Okay. But I have to say this. He would call his father. His father lived in Las Vegas. His father and mother weren't together, but they had contact, and he would always call his father. Okay. I said hi to his father over the phone at one point because he said, "Hey, you're the guy who's hanging out with my son, whatever." And his answer machine, when my friend had called, he was on there humming some tune, and at first it sounded corny. Like, here's this older guy. And my friend Michael said, "Oh, my father is into music." He never said who he was. Wow. This is to show you how we could be bumping into history and something powerful and not even know it. I didn't know who his father was. His father was into music. Y'all can Google this at any point. His father's name was Otis Blackwell.
I know that name.
Otis Blackwell. He was the cornerstone, that's what they call him, of rock and roll. Yeah. He made the song and several songs for Elvis Presley. Don't Be Cruel and several other ones. And coming up into all throughout the 80s, into the 90s, he got older. He had all his royalties. He was a businessman. He told it on David Letterman. He was on David Letterman, and he looks just like my friend.
Wow.
And it wasn't until a few years ago that my friend Mike told me. I said, what? But they usually ignore him. But countless white rock groups and groups, he wanted to just make the music because he knew that his black face was not going to go out there by the way they did us.
That's
now
right.
I'm gonna drop the link. I'm gonna try to find it and drop the link. And when you hear him sing "Don't Be Cruel," he sings it better than Elvis Presley.
Yeah,
and he spoke about that.
I've heard. Yeah, I heard about him.
Yeah, I got to. He passed away, I think, about a little over 20 years ago. But I got to speak to him briefly over the phone. My friend was so modest. I don't think my friend realized how big this man was.
Wow. And
Otis Blackwell.
So many of our people, man. That's why I like to keep their spirit alive of their work. That happened to so many of our people. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Great man.
That's amazing, bro. You know who else I looked at last night? Paul Mooney.
Oh man, I love him.
Man, I know. I laughed so hard last night. But you know, the thing is even though he's telling jokes just like Richard Pryor, in which he wrote,
he's telling the truth.
He's telling the truth.
Yes.
Like Dave Chappelle have that same gift. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we are the ones that the veil is over our eyes. Just like that movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. When they went to sleep, that body came alive. Yeah. And not only that, once that body came alive, then you died. There was no going back. So, you know, that kind of talks that I sat up in my chair. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is a message to Black folks right here. Ooh, wee. Yeah. And you know, a lot of times, all you got to do is look at stuff that's been put out. Because for some reason, we think we know it all about everything and our life experiences. This energy comes through all people. And you have to, this is another thing about nature. All of nature is connected. Yeah. You don't see, when you go in that ground at the root level, all of them need the same nutrients, the water, the fertile soil, all of it is connected. Above ground, the same, all of them need the sun, right? So these are the simple things that they have taken from us that has really hurt our people to the point where we almost can't recover. Now that we're seeing it, we are recovering. But like you were saying about the flood, we were talking about, sometimes it's too late. By the time the floods show up, like the one in Texas, the Netaru, then it's too late. So that's why it's important for us to continue to go back and look at these things, because they have a purpose for burying Black history. Okay. The other thing too is okay. So yeah, those were the most important things. And Paul Mooney kind of summed it up as well. You know, bro, I was laughing so hard in here last night, I thought my side was gonna crash. But if you want to put that picture back up, we're gonna go into this, because one thing that we as Sun people, whether you want to accept this or not, you are at the quantum level, you are connected to nature. Okay, so we can talk about no, the other one, not that one, the other one. Okay, let me see. The one you had after that. Yes, that's it right there. Okay, sorry. No, thank you. Okay. Now, if you read that, you'll see the point I'm getting ready to make. The points I'm getting ready to make now is where these entities that have studied us since 1945, this is what they have perfected with our people. And now they're, and again, artificial intelligence can be good. Okay, it's like everything else, what you use it for. I'm not saying that artificial intelligence is bad. All I'm saying is that you have to be aware that certain things you do, you cannot always involve artificial intelligence, okay? And we're going to show you why today, because this is how they get information from our people as well. It's no, you don't have to talk on the phone no more or text. See, this is what we're missing. This is a higher level of destiny swapping that they deal with, okay? So at the nucleus of the atom, okay, which you are, electrons and energy levels surround it, okay, including protons and neutrons. So get this, electrons need to connect to other energies, you, to get to a higher energy level. Now let's talk about that for a minute. So the thing they discovered when they actually started doing the scientific study of melanin is that it existed in everything. It was the only molecule that existed in everything throughout the universe, throughout the planet. And that same black dot existed inside of sun people, because we have the strongest melanin in connection to the universe. Once they discovered this, then they knew that they had to do some form of destiny swapping, because your power is too great. If you ever, like the story I told about the demons trying to hide our real power, and they ended up hiding it inside of us, because we're not going to look inside of us or inside of other people to get this. But they do this by absorbing a photon, okay, a light source, which you are. And it increases its ability to go to a higher level. Now let's talk about that again. So at the quantum level, this is why they have to stay close to us. And we talked about this from the last video. It's called quantum entanglement. And you'll see after we go into this why it's necessary for them to stay connected to you, even if they have you reacting to the things they do emotionally every day on TikTok. This is a way for them to siphon energy. Okay. So again, I want to read this because this point is very, very important for Black folks to get. Okay. You are the nucleus of the atom. Okay. And the electrons and energy levels that surround it, the protons, neutrons, and electrons, they need to connect to other energies, okay, to your melanin, to get to a higher energy level. That's why your frequency and vibration is so important, and who affects that is so important. It's extremely important. Okay, so how do they do this? There's this term called resonant frequency, which is really just a scientific name for melanin. All right, a resonant frequency, or the natural trajectory of an object that vibrates at a higher amplitude. That's you. So that's why I like to give the analogy of the metamorphosis of the caterpillar and the butterfly. Because that caterpillar is not going to become a manifesto butterfly if it does not, in some kind of way, have some kind of entanglement or cocoon experience. And this is what the invaders of our lands and eventually our colonizers, this is what they perfected or this is what they have perfected. Okay. But again, resonant frequency, which you resonate at a frequency that no other people resonate at, but yet you let people bring you down here. Okay, and I'm not talking about you trying to be more moralistic than other people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about living by the laws of Mayat. Regardless of what these evil people do, you cannot, okay, you still cannot wish evil on other people, okay? And I know how people have a lot of pain inside. And in a way, you know, like the old saying, misery loves company, okay? But let's not fall into this trap that these entities put us in. Because it's only gonna, if we teach our kids to regurgitate hate and not find a way to properly channel this, it's only gonna, it's called, you can see the things, I believe 50 people got shot in Chicago over the 4th of July. For what? We shouldn't even be celebrating. You need to listen to, and this is again, the failure of our community to teach our young people our history. Listen to Frederick Douglass's speech about the 4th of July. That's what our children should have been listening to, rather than out in the streets in our own community shooting each other. So we see this resonant frequency right here. And so you see what happens right here, right? When two quantum entangled particles are actually connected, okay? And it doesn't matter. Here's the other thing too that's very, very important about this. And this is why Lance can be in Ghana and I'm here, and people in the family, wherever you are, you can be wherever. And these two particles, if they're connected at the quantum level, entangled, then one of those particles can be on the damn moon and the other one here on the earth, and they're going to have a simultaneous experience. Once one takes the superposition, it automatically dictates what the opposite reaction is going to be. And we're going to get into that because that's very important. That's extremely important. And I want to finish on this thought here because, yeah, bear with me for a second, brother. Okay.
Take your time, brother.
So now we're looking at the roots of melanin envy and the hate that's spewed towards our people. There's such a thing, believe it or not, called soul swap. Okay. It's called soul swap. I tell you, this thing gets deep. And when you actually go into nature, it explains everything. No, you can go into nature in any chemistry, physics, biology, whatever, wherever you go into nature, you're gonna see the black dot. Okay. This is their biggest fear. But there's this thing called soul swap. And it's when the incoming soul, now imagine this, your soul coming into, once that flash goes off, when that melanated sperm hits that melanated egg and that zinc flash go off, that zinc spark. These people, these entities they worship, try to swap your soul at that level.
Dang.
Okay. So when the incoming soul exchanges places with the soul which is already in the body of the unborn child. Now think about that for a minute. And that's all because of they connect to you at the quantum level. Why they got to stay so close to you. You telling them all what you do on TikTok every day. So what they do, they just put this information into a big, I saw something fascinating too, brother. couple of days ago. This young brother turned plastic into fuel. And they started a car. He's out of Chicago. See, these are the stories they want to tell, but yet they'll show you 50 of our kids shooting up people, but they won't show you this. So now he's saying, the latest video I saw, that people are following him, a black helicopter, because this could change the world. If people could create, you know how much plastic it is in the world, in the oceans?
Real.
He created, yeah, you need to Google him, Lance. He created gasoline, pretty much, out of plastic. He set up this machine. He started when he was 17 years old at his mama's house. Then he set up, eventually, 5 years later, he got this set up out in the field where you have the tanks. You know, it just shows you and I started thinking about all our great inventors. Okay. And when you think about the things, the creativity they had, brother, this is why they have to do this destiny swap. Why they have you still have a crown on your head, but you homeless. You see what I'm saying?
There you go.
And this is why. But imagine that. It's well, I made a mistake. It's when the soul is already in the body of the unborn child. And you know, that takes me back to, remember I did that video when I told you how this entity that was in this guy that was in this mental health hospital I was working in, he knew that my twin died from having umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. You remember that?
Yeah.
This is how deep. It's
amazing.
Yeah, it is. And see, one of the things that we have to get back to is all of this knowledge is in nature, but you've been taught incorrectly by people who have a God complex that have you worshiping them in their systems. When you don't know that these people, even when you better watch your babies, you better watch your, if you're pregnant, you better try to stay as close to nature as you can. Because I don't even know what can block this. You know, I'm just, the creatrix is just revealing this to me. You know, so I got to do more research. But our people like to think of the, you know, the spooky part of things. But this is deeper than that spiritual stuff that they tell you about somebody using dark magic. No, they ain't. They might be, okay? But that is not greater than what you're looking at right here. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is the real spirituality right here. And also, now, this is what I call the stepping fetchings or the coons. There's something called mind swap. Okay. And this is when two people are channeling each other, or a culture, another culture, like the colonizers did us. Okay. They're channeling each other, or they were channeling our energy, and each still has their original consciousness. Now imagine this. This is behind the mental anguish that some people suffer. Okay. You still have your original consciousness inside of you. Okay. Inside your original body, but it's buried too deep for you to access. And each person thinks that they are the other person. Now, when you look at our coons, and people talk about, I was just talking to my partner about this. Whereas Stephen Fetching was a violent man. Really? Both of his wives had to get restraining order, because imagine now you're pretending to be this Sambo, this coon in public. They pay you $1 million to set this image for Black people. The first Black millionaire in Hollywood, Stephen Fetching, because you were willing to coon and put these images, negative images about our people out there. But they said in private, he was very angry. Very angry. Imagine you having to do this to appease white people and get their fiat. And that's called mind swap. And that's what our coons, that's the state they're in. So I'm gonna read this again so people can get this.
Yes.
Each okay, so when two people, or in this case, two civilizations of people, Sun people and European people, when they're channeling each other, they still have their original consciousness inside them. Black folks we still have this inside of us. Okay. But it's buried too deep for you to access in this artificial state you live in. But each person thinks they are the other person. So in other words, you think that you are being accepted into the white world when you're actually not. Okay, and that's a lesson that a lot of other cultures of people are learning. That there's no way if you have melanin that they're going to ever accept you. That's just unnatural. That can't happen. Okay. So let's look at the fact that brother, you can put actually that other quantum entanglement picture. Now they were able to take this picture, not that one. They were able to take take this picture at the quantum level, and look what they saw. That's how deep the entanglement is. Now we know this as the yin yang symbol that was taken actually out of Benin in a Kibalon, way before the Chinese got, and it was taken there. But that's for another day. But they saw this, okay, at that level. That's how entangled these people that you're entangled with are at this level. Okay. So let's talk about the European structure and their systems and how they operate and how they were created. You see right there how they were created. They entangled themselves with you at the quantum level. In many cases, it's soul swap and mind swap. All right, so wherever you were and whatever lands you were on, your civilization was taken from you, and wherever you resided on the planet, everything that you created was taken. And all you have to do is just look at the Moors when they were in Spain. That's just one of the things that you can look at. So when in a Kibalon, this is what they first ran across when they first encountered our people: agriculture, astronomy, law, chemistry, education, mathematics, and medicine. You were the first sun on the planet. And it is impossible, we know, to block the sun, and that your sun energy was swapped. You were the first rulers of the planet, as you see with the brother with the crown on his head, where this concept of royalty, I told you last time, I'm going to start charging you for some renting space in my head. But this concept of royalty came out of our people, kings and queens. Okay, and all of this created this melanin envy. But I want you to look at that picture they took at the quantum level. This is how deep they entangle themselves with you. Okay, so our people have to comprehend now that it's not just your spirituality that they deal with. But this is spirituality, but I'm talking about what they got you believing in. Okay, Because when you start looking at the real creatrix, you'll see what is already biologically in the feminine energy, okay, that they have taken away from you. Now let's talk about, okay, brother, if you put that picture of the manifest destiny up there.
With the woman?
Yeah, with the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I'll come back to this right here. Just give me a second, brother. I want to
take your time, brother.
Yeah, I want to make sure I cover everything. And sometimes I okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So when we talk about destiny, manifest destiny. Okay. So I hear a lot of people saying, well, why does America want to be white again? They just want 100 million white people in America. You have to go back to manifest destiny and destiny swapping. Okay. The same thing happened when they got to Turtle Island and they saw all these millions of black folks. So what the first thing they said, oh, well, we're going to call them savages. Okay. We're going to call them Indians or whatever. And we're going to paint this picture of them to the world, and we're going to write this narrative. Although these were the people that helped them, live through the tough North American winters. And also, they brought diseases that they didn't have immunity for. And many, many people died as a result of this image you see going westward. Okay, it was like a plague that followed it. Okay, so before the Civil War, the idea of manifest destiny was used to validate continental acquisition in the Oregon country, Texas, New Mexico, and California. Also for the purchase of Alaska. It was the idea that white Americans were divinely ordained to settle the entire continent of North America. The ideology of manifest destiny inspired a variety of measures designed to remove or destroy the native population. The melanated people have always been a threat to European males who redefined what the true image of masculinity should be, and the overbearing misogynistic ideology to cover up the inferiorities that they felt whenever they encountered real viral black men. Okay, brother, you can take that down. So we're going to continue. Right. We're going to continue to cover this quantum entanglement, and then we're going to end up talking about what they stole from us in order to build their systems. So we're going to go back to quantum entanglement because this is at the core of what has happened to our people and what they are currently doing as well. So I was explaining that no matter, matter of fact, you can put those two particles back up for me, Lance.
Which one?
Those two particles of energy. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great.
So as I was saying, no matter the distance between the particles, and they call this non-location, they both act in the same manner, entanglement. So this explains why our people, and when you go back to that age of the that era of the boule and that class they created over black people once we came off the plantations, this explains a lot, because it got to a point where white people didn't even have to be around for certain classes of black people to act a certain way, or act like they were white people. And this caused a real schism in our community, because, you know, but most black people just, they had to keep it real. Look, you know, this is not a white community. We can't live like them, first of all, because we don't have the fiat that they have. So all of these things were going on at that time. But so let's home in on this so we can see the real picture of what has happened to our people, what is going on with our people right now. And nature has given us the perfect answer to this. Okay, so quantum entanglement is a phenomenon in physics where two or more particles become linked, sharing a unified quantum state. Okay, I'm gonna read that again. And I want our people to think about the fact that some people are connected to ICE ideology, and this is what is at the core of our main issues, where you're supposed to be a sun up here shining light on things, because these warmongers and these Thor-like people are, you know, destroying the planet. That doesn't mean that you have to participate, because believe me, the Netaru, they're already answering, but you better sit your black butt down somewhere, okay? Okay, because at the end of the day, the answer from nature is coming, and it's here. So we want to talk about how you need to get, and this is what the invasion of the body snatchers and destiny swapping is. So quantum entanglement is a phenomenon in physics where two or more particles become linked, like you are. You're linked to the system, and you're linked to the people that have you ingrained in this system, because now you're sharing a unified quantum state. Now, quantum entanglement and melanin envy, or to vibrate at a higher frequency, comes down to this. So, and I read this earlier, or some of it, that an electron has to connect with a photon, which you are, a photon, a light particle, or a sun. Okay, it has to connect with you and melanin, and this is why you are targeted as a melanated person. This is why, because in order for them to get this connection with you, the photon, the sun, and the light, they have to connect with you. They have to share the same quantum space state with you, and they have to stay linked to you. Okay. And that's why you have to be careful and stop telling them everything you're doing. Electron entanglement, and how they know you hold the key to their survival. So I'll give you an example. When we were talking about non-location, and that now, no matter where you are, they're still linked with you. Okay, because they learned this when they studied the black dot. That okay, so you can have, say you got a pair of gloves, and I send one of the pair to Lance all the way in Ghana, and I'm here in California.
Mm-hmm.
If I got the right glove, then automatically you're going to get the left glove. You see? And this happens simultaneously, that Well, I'll read it so you'll know. In physics, this happens simultaneously. So the electron measurement of particle 1, which is the glove, the right glove, forced the universe to determine the opposite correlation of particle 2, which is the left glove. Now, something very interesting happens when this quantum entanglement, or this quantum state that you're linked with the people who are siphoning all your energy, that the separate particles, such as photon lights, you, become entangled as a result of one photon taking a position, what they call a superposition. So this is what the point I'm trying to make is, this is what they learned about you, that they had to take a superposition over you, or what you call white supremacy, in order for because see, the brain doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's not, okay? So when Malcolm talked about the fact that you've been bamboozled, man, it's deep. It's real deep. And so this is how, when you think about, and I always think about this, that Dr. Amos Wilson was so spot on, that in order for 7% of the people in the world to rule over the other 93%, at least 40% of the people they're ruling over. And now that I'm looking at this level, I can absolutely, I saw it before, but I can absolutely understand and comprehend the deepness of that statement. We have 40% of melanin people, and when you add the other cultures of people, it could be as high as 80% that are absolutely linked or entangled in this web. We can even look at a spider's web, because once that spider have you in that web, they're going to look for more food, because they know you ain't going nowhere. You're going to be in that web when they come back, okay? And that's why if you look at a spider's web, you see these mosquitoes and shit that's been, dragonflies been in there for a couple of days. They ain't worried about them. It's like when you put food in the refrigerator. Okay, I ain't gonna eat all the food today. And I remember seeing this documentary on Nature, on the Nature Channel, where this damn spider set up a long silk, because a spider's web is the strongest substance on the earth. Most people don't know that. When all the way over this river to the other side on this tree, because at a certain time of day, those dragonflies, they fly through there. And I was like, wow. So this is what has happened to our people. They have studied the black dot, and they know the behaviors that they elicit from our people when they upload things. So it gets a little deeper. So once they take this superposition, they know that emotionally you're going to be tuned into that, okay? And so they interact, or they entangle themselves with you. And this is why white supremacy knows that if you cut them off and not interact with them, they lose their power over you. And this is why they constantly bombard you with all kind of stuff. You can turn on YouTube, TikTok, anything. They got all kind of stuff about black folks. I'm like, why in the hell are you so concerned with what black folks are doing? But when you look at nature at its root level, then the answers are all here. So they take this superposition to force your opposite emotional position. And finally, two entangled objects are using, as I said before, the same wave function. So now, so since they can't see things, okay, thank you, Dr. Koji, I remember. They can't see what you see, okay? But just like with Herod, when he started talking to those people who know how to look into the wavelengths, they get that energy, okay? And they told him a king was going to be born that may threaten his kingdom. This is the same energy they use with you. They know who you are. So you don't worry about, they already know who you are. They know what you stand for. They know what you do. They're entangled with you. Okay. They just throw emotional lobbies at you. Okay. But now that you're on the same wave function, they know that any actions they take will automatically affect how you respond. And finally, once two separate particles are entangled, like you are and these coons are with this system, they essentially act as one, so you cannot differentiate between their functions and the functions of the counterfeit spirits that's actually they bow down to. Yeah, so I wanted, and finally, I wanted to talk about how, as a result, what they stole from our lands in order to build the kingdoms that they have. Now, we know from Dr. George G.M. James that they stole everything, okay, as far as the academic, if you want to look at the academic aspect, the literary aspect of it as well. But a couple of things that they stole, okay. One was the Rosetta Stone, okay, which had your ancient Black writings, the Medu that they deciphered, or so they say. I agree with Dr. Walter Williams. Now, they never really deciphered it into Champollion and Thomas Young into Demotic, but they never got the spiritual connection of it. That's what I meant to say. But they stole the Rosetta Stone. And then they wanted to claim that they had some type of, they wanted to change the trajectory of it. And this was a part of destiny swapping. So when you look at destiny swapping, I know our people, again, want to look at the hoodoo aspect of it and the spiritual aspect and people putting spells on each other. But that is what they have taught you. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but there's a deeper level of this that our people are missing, that we're talking about today, that they have entangled themselves with you at this level. Okay. So two of the other great things that they stole, the Great Star of Africa, which is the largest diamond in the world, was taken from South Africa and is now on the scepter of the Queen of England that just died. That's yours. That's your stone. The largest diamond in the world. You can look it up. It's called the Great Star of Africa. The second thing that so just from the Rosetta Stone and the Great Star of Africa, there's a type of destiny swapping that has taken place. Okay, so that crown that you saw on Lance's banner is what they envied when they saw you. Well, it was one of the greatest things because they were like, no, we're going to be this royalty. We're going to present ourselves as royalty across the world. And then we're going to regulate you to a homeless serf or peasant. The other big thing was the royal crown of Ethiopia. It's like the crown that you saw in Lance's band. Lance, would you put that banner up again?
Yeah, sure.
Because with the crown, yeah. So, because this speaks directly to this. The royal crown of Ethiopia was stolen by Europeans and taken back to Europe. It was stolen out of Ethiopia, and it had great sacred significance to our people. And it showed that we were the first royalty of the Creator, and that we were the ones who established this concept to the world. But man, that is such a great picture, man. Again, I don't know how you do this, but that crown that they stole from Ethiopia, this is when they first said, "Oh, well, this is what a ruler of a nation should have on their head, a crown." This is where they and from these three sacred objects that our people created that really worship the real Creator, is where they took the destiny swapping on the planet took place. It was the Rosetta Stone, where they, even though they couldn't get the spiritual knowledge, they were able to deceive the world by writing, their own books or what have you, and changing the coming forth by day and by night, and calling it the Dead Sea Scrolls, where they literally took the Dead Scrolls out of the sarcophagus of our dead ancestors. So I guess they were right in calling it that. And then, they learned from the Rosetta Stone the great reverence we had for nature, and so they changed all of this. And then when they stole the largest diamond in the world, and that queen put it on her scepter, this is, where's your own stone? Why didn't you put your own stone on there? But they corrupted it and called it the Great Crowns of Europe, which, if you watch The Wizard of Oz, and I'm talking about the old one, the original one, where when Dorothy went to that trailer and saw that traveling salesperson and ancient relics, he was telling her about the great crowns of Europe, not knowing that this was the great crown of Ethiopia that was stolen. And yeah, brother, with that, I think I'll end today. And so you see, when they talk about destiny swapping, because again, they have a 90-degree way of seeing the world, they shrink it into this, oh, somebody's putting a curse on you. Oh, somebody is you. No, that's how they take away our real energy and our real strength, because they can do that. Okay, because they're sharing they have you in the same quantum state that they're in, and they learned all this, and now they're using artificial intelligence. That's why they don't need you no more. And this is why our people have to go back to nature. That's our only hope, because they're going to cut our young people completely out of this system. So with that, brother, I guess I'll get out of here. Thank you again, man. Keep up the great work. I always brag on Lasker. You're the person that I see is carrying on that great legacy of our people, not backing down, fighting. And you're very necessary to us accomplishing or fighting back against these entities that have, yes, sir. Because I know how our people are. They're not gonna give you no credit for nothing. Okay, and I'm not talking about your family, the people in the family.
Right.
I'm just saying in general, because we're linked with these evil people at that level where you even see they'll swap out the soul. Can you imagine swapping out the soul of an unborn child? This is how deep they have to get melanin. So Well,
And,
yeah, and you guys
and
keep
I
up
just
the
want to
great
say that
work.
that stirred
Yeah.
up so much of what I know. What I'm saying, I'm not saying I'm an authority on any one thing, but from just having boots on the ground with this thing called social media, these entities out here who have different types of spirits, good and bad energies.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I instinctively know that I want to freestyle on something to the point where I already started working on the banner of the show that I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, what I was going to do tonight, I might just continue and make that for tomorrow. And for this one that I'm making, make that tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm so inspired. I have to get up early in the morning, but I'm so inspired to freestyle it from the heart, from what I know. You can have that man who is trained as a technician in a certain area of expertise, but then his helper is the one who doesn't have the certification, but he's been working on that site and knows the land and knows instinctively certain things. I'm not saying I'm that guy that's educated. All I'm saying, I want to say a few things that you open my eyes to that I feel already, but it goes on a little further.
You know,
just like when Mr.
what
Scurv told
you're
me about how
saying,
the
Lance?
ants
You know
jump
what you're
around
saying?
and say it again.
Oh no, I was saying what you're saying is so spot on, because this is what happened. Like most of the things that America learned to build and how to do things, they got from our people first. They were the first apprentice.
Yeah.
And I remember Dr. Ben talking about how they built the industrial age. When they started sailing down the Nile for the first time, and Dr. Ben was one of the few men that sailed the 4,000 miles of the Nile. He said Africans were smelting iron for thousands of years.
Wow.
And when you think about the Zane people in East Africa, they were smelting iron for thousands of years. And once the European learned and sat with them how to smelt iron, they brought it back to Europe and America. Another good source is Dr. Arthur Lewis, how Europeans dominated economic domination of the world. So when I look at a brother like you, Lance, I think about something Dr. Kojo told me. He said that our most brilliant people are the ones that their minds have not been disrupted by their systems. So on the one hand, a academically trained person is necessary.
Yes.
But like the toolbox analogy, but the person who have the experience in life, and I'll take the experienced person over the academic person every day of the week. Okay, right. Because the natural experienced person has been taught through their gifts from the real creator creatrix of the universe, where we have been taught in academia by men who are the go-betweens of our real history that has been hidden, stolen, and plagiarized. So someone like you is so valuable to our community because the natural training that you have in things like architecture and your mind and experiences in the world with just people is so valuable to us now that we have gone through this cocoon experience and we're in our butterfly state. Now we have to shed off this system that have had our people in this condition. And we have to look like brothers like you who are the real photons, that light that we have, the energy source have to connect to a higher frequency to lead us in this fight. And that's real talk, brother. I don't care what nobody say.
And I know you have to go, but
yeah,
I have so much, even more so, to say in my appreciation of you. So this is why we have to work together and get beyond the individual wrapping of our egos. Not you or I, because I've defeated all of that stuff. I don't care about hits and likes, and you use that to gauge, but it's the energy that you're putting out to people. Because see, look, you can get 1 million people to watch a video, and they can have very faint, weak energy. You can get 100 people or 50 people to watch what you're saying via a video, and they're powerhouses that will take that out there into the world. Even when you transition, they'll keep that energy going. So it's not about the number.
That's what it's meant for. That what you just said is what it's meant for. And please expand on the spiritual and mental aspect of it, like I know you can do, because I only covered just this aspect of it. But there are the other components, the spiritual and the mental, and I'm sure you and the people you connected with can go into that area and really bring it out. That would be great.
Definitely. We all are a crucial part of this puzzle. And once we know our role, the beauty is in our connection, what you champion and what you master, I celebrate because that's part of me. You help me in the reach that I can't touch, but I need to be where I am to do what I do. So you are me and I am you.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. And they got the picture that they took at that level to prove it. The yin yang symbol.
That's right. That's right. Beautiful. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, brother. And keep up the great work, man. And I'll be in touch with you again soon.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Okay. Peace and love.
Peace and love always. Yes, I'm going to get ready to set up something else. And I think the one that I put out, I'll put out for tomorrow. But there's something that I want to speak on as an extension to what Brother Neil said, an addendum. I'm just going to go all out with it. And let's just see where we go. It'll probably be another 30 minutes, another hour or so. I already have the banner created. I just have to create the link. And with that being said, you know, it's a guaranteed thing. And then I'll go on and go to sleep after that, you know? But that's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for being here.